Copenhagen, in Denmark. Seems like a dream. Seems like so crazy that I was standing outside that stadium. Not sitting, that's for sure. Actually, got pushed by a cop afterward too. That was crazy. But that was also because the ambulance had to come through. But that's all a part of the experience of Hawaiian at Euro Cup, is which I like to title this episode. Not too many fancy bells or whistles with my computer or with my broadcast today, because it's summer, and also my computer isn't for some reason cooperating with me, but that's fine because it probably is on vacation as well. We started off kind of blistering this year, and it was kind of good. It was really good. And then last week, we didn't have a show, if you noticed. So that I'm kind of averaging not having one show a year, which is not a bad pace for me. But I was in Amsterdam at the time, and I was thinking like, oh, I could just do a show from Amsterdam, but it didn't end up happening, so that's fine. But yeah, Amsterdam, that's crazy, because I was in Copenhagen, and when I was in Copenhagen, Denmark, I went to Sweden for a day, then I went to Germany for a day, then I went to Amsterdam. Amsterdam was super fun. I would say go to Amsterdam as well. Go to all these places, and I ended up in Belgium. So you can't feel too bad, I guess, for me and my jet lag. But at the same time, I am kind of recovering, but I think my whole experience is fresh, so I want to talk about it, and I want to, first of all, aloha everyone who's there. I see all your comments. I'm just going straight from my phone right now, so that's because I couldn't get my computer kind of to cooperate. I mean, it's fine, but it's on vacation, probably like how I was, and kind of my brain is still, but I'm about to be home soon, fly back to Hawaii, and so I'm going to be adjusting even more from Europe. But it was a great trip, and I got to see so many amazing things. And part of all the traveling that I do with Hawaii sports fans is, like I said, all of it is part of my own personal love for just traveling and exploring new places and feeling like an adventurer, like Ernest Hemingway or whatever. I don't know. I don't want to like just single out certain people or writers or figures in history, but people that go and sojourn by themselves across the world. I see myself as a person like that. Bradley says he's watching live from his beach chair on the beach. Enjoy, Bradley. I'm glad you can do that. And it's always great to come home to Hawaii because it's one of the great places in the world, if not the greatest. And of course, it may be biased, but when I go to sleep, I'll think of all these places in Europe that I've been to, but I will also be very appreciative, obviously, of being from Hawaii. But I can only tell you just how magical Europe was, and going to all these countries, 5 in all, I was able to go to. And I started in Copenhagen at the Euro Cup. So some of you might be watching on ESPN. I don't know what your experience is with as soccer or football, because I always feel bad when I say soccer, because I don't feel bad. I just, how some people are like super purist, and I get it. And, it's football, but I just don't want to get people confused. Football, soccer. But, people like to say soccer too, in Europe even, while I was there. And I think that's just a part of the cross-cultural exchange between newer American soccer fans, like myself, like a lot of people who might not be traditional fans, like the ones that the MLS, for instance, has. So it was cool to be around a lot of soccer and super soccer enthused people, the game being in Copenhagen, and Europe, in terms of it opening up to international travel. It was a good time for it to, for me to be able to go, because it really just started opening up. I was able to use my vaccine card to get into most buildings and to get access into the game. So before the game even, it's at a stadium in Copenhagen. I was staying kind of right in the center of the town. Everybody there bikes and walks, and that's the amazing part. Denmark is amazing. The Little Mermaid statue is there. This theme park called Tivoli that Walt Disney was inspired by, and Walt Disney went to that park. If you go to Tivoli, it looks a lot like Disneyland. So we know for a fact that when Walt Disney was visiting there, he was inspired. But anyways, Denmark is magical. Copenhagen is magical. But going to the game at Euro Cup was also a thing for me personally as my first European international game. I was like, this is my first international soccer game, but at the same time, I was like, no, I went to León, Mexico. So I have to count León, and León was an amazing experience too. But going to Europe, obviously, it was different than going to anywhere else as well, just because of, just Euro Cup itself, the tournament. And for for all of you who didn't grow up, maybe major soccer fans like myself, so, a lot of people, all over in Mililani growing up in Hawaii, I know a lot of people that watched Premier League very religiously, or would get up in the morning to watch, this La Liga or all these crazy, soccer leagues that I personally didn't watch or have any teams in, but I knew about. But now that I think soccer is mainstreaming in a lot of ways in America, definitely through MLS. You're going to get a lot of people like me who are experiencing major soccer events. And for me, Euro Cup, I didn't know how big it was. In 2008, I went to Vietnam, and I remember being on a boat in Halong Bay, and everybody's watching this game, and I was like, what is this? And they're like, oh, we're cheering for Germany. Go Germany. And I was like, oh, weird. And I was like, what tournament is this? And I was like, not World Cup. They're like, no, Euro Cup. So, this is how, I didn't realize even how globally the impact of this tournament. Fast forward to 2012, I was in Korea. I remember people were watching it. 2016, the last one, I was in Wales. When Wales made it to the semifinals, I watched Wales play in Cardiff. So I was in a pub in Cardiff, and I watched Wales beat, who did they beat? But I learned a lot of names like Gareth Bale. It was cool to be somewhere while that team's country was playing and be in that country. I was in Portugal the last World Cup, and I shared a video of me in Portugal at the big town square, because there's all these zone areas where people watch the game zones. And in Denmark, it was hard because of COVID. They didn't really want too many people gathering, so you had to have tickets or something. But there were still people everywhere. But anyways, yeah, when I was in Cardiff, I watched Wales play. And, now fast forward 2020, 2021, this is obviously because of COVID last year. The tournament was supposed to be last year, but it was this summer instead. So now Euro 2020, and I think it's a lot bigger. The way that ESPN is promoting it is a lot, more than in the past. And, that I'm a product of that as well. I'm going to be honest. I think ESPN showing, for me personally, seeing like Sporting KC, and I no offense to Sporting KC, but I don't feel like their fan base is on the level of 3252. Obviously, I'm very biased there because I'm a member of 3252, which is the fan supporter section of LAFC. But that's what attracted me to MLS in the first place, was seeing these really cool like fireworks and pyrotechnics. And then also, I didn't think I was ever going to get involved in that myself. Not that I've ever got to hold any of the pyros myself, or have I? I think I need to experience that and maybe even do that in a game, but only certain people can do it in the game. But that's a part of the soccer football culture, and that's something that I think is really bringing the world together. And it sounds like another platitude about the power of sports, which I love to spout every week because it's so true. It's so true. All how sports has bring people together. And for me, going to this game was furthermore a Hawaiian at the Euro Cup from Hawaii. I don't know. There could have been other people from Hawaii there. I don't know. Maybe in Copenhagen. But I was there for the round of 16 game, Croatia versus Spain. And, like I said, I walked to the stadium. Everybody, you could have biked. You could have rented a bike. They have like Biki kind. In Hawaii, the Biki is at service, or maybe now defunct. Bradley is a huge Biki person. But that type of, the bike culture is so amazing there. And really, first of all, physical fitness, I think the standard as a society as a whole, it goes up when everybody's biking, but they also have great bike lanes and everything. So there's a lot of ways of getting to the stadium. So that was cool as well, that a lot of people are walking in, and there's kind of just a horde of people. And I'm going to share this video. I'm going to share a vlog soon. I'll get to editing. But being able to be a part of these people, and, as people get closer to the stadium, they get louder. And I'll be honest, it seemed that the Croatia fans were a lot louder. If you've been watching the tournament, Croatia qualified for the semis quicker than Spain, and Spain was one of the teams that kind of disappointed, and people saw them on a downward trend. or at least by Spain standards. And when you look at places like Spain, France, Italy, Germany, all of Western Europe, I mean, the standards are very high, obviously, for their soccer teams, for their national teams. Higher than what we expect for the men's, right, and national team in the U.S. We just are like, whoa, if the men's national team gets into the World Cup, it's a big deal. Sad, but it's, and I think that's also sad because I think there are a lot of athletes who aren't playing football or American football or basketball. I mean, I think if LeBron or KD played soccer, it would be game over too. I think these guys are amazing. I'm not saying like the size really matters. I'm just saying there's a level of athlete too in the U.S. that of athletes that are obviously are not playing soccer, and are gravitating to professional leagues that are making a huge sums of money. Not that you couldn't, right? There's a lot of Americans that are going over to Europe to play. Christian Pulisic, a guy from Croatia, was like, "What do you think of him?" Because he has Croatian roots, Christian Pulisic, right? And he's plays for the U.S. Soccer team as well. He is a representation of just what kind of athlete too is meant for, not meant for this game, of what we traditionally see in this game is maybe a little bit smaller. Like Landon Donovan wasn't a huge guy, but a guy in American sports history that will have a place for what he's done. Even though he played a sport that even wasn't super popular like soccer, he helped to make it popular. And I think it's cool that the game is still growing. But for me, as a guy who watches mostly MLS, watching international soccer was like seeing a new was like definitely a step up. Like even for my eyes, as somebody who doesn't watch a lot of football, soccer in my life, I was like, okay, this is definitely a different level than MLS, and it was evident by guys I wanted to see play, like Luka Modric for Croatia, a guy that in the World Cup I thought was really fun to watch, and I knew he was getting later in his career, and I think when he won like Golden Boot, or when he beat like Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi, and I was like, okay, this guy seems like a kind of a cool guy to watch. It's kind of like the Novak Djokovic, not at the level of Joker in tennis, but think of like a guy having to be a contemporary with two all-time greats, but still being able to find success. And it was cool to watch him play, but we had to show vaccine cards or you had to have a PCR test. So that took a little bit longer to filter people in. But once we got to our seats, I was able to get my ticket literally on the primary market from UEFA, who was the international soccer organization who was sponsoring the tournament or hosting the tournament. I was able to get my tickets certified and direct from them, which is really cool and easy. And they make you have your passport and everything when you buy them. And you have to be very, and I think that's a pretty cool thing too. Like everybody's basically registered, like your name is on the ticket. So it's like a different level of event, right? And I think that's, important because that's a thing there, registering people to come in that we don't necessarily do in the United States, but in the U.S. there's definitely much heavier in terms of searching everything than in Europe. And in Europe, I think they're even more able to go and search your stuff, but they trust the fans for the most part. What I didn't like about the fans, and I will say this before I forget, because I've seen this in the NBA. We've seen this happen recently, as fans throwing things at players, and that was happening, or people throwing things on the field. There was somebody above me I was right where the press box was. I was very close to the press, right where the press was. I was in the press, but I was sitting right by them. I had to pay for my seat, unlike the press. But they're working, and they don't expect this to happen. But a guy threw a water bottle from above me, and it hit a guy in the press, like right in front of me. And I was like, if something hits me, I was like, no, I'm definitely running up there. But the guy next to me, who's from Italy, who lived in Denmark, so a lot of people couldn't really travel outside of their country. That was the thing. Like in Spain, a lot of people couldn't travel outside. A lot of Croatians came to the game. But there are a lot of also expats. So just like there are people that live in, grew up in California and work in New York, or grew up in Missouri and live in Florida now or whatever, there's a lot of people that move around within Western Europe as well, to live and work in other countries. And obviously with the European Union, the way it's set up, a lot of these people can do that. So there are a lot of fans within these countries, and I got to meet a lot of them. And Croatia was one of those teams that had a lot of fans, and they were very confident going into the game. And I kind of was pulling for them as well. But I got to my seat, which is a kind of a weird seat because it literally was my seat and then the like concourse, like where people walk. So I got this category A seat, so it's like the best seat. Oh, that's another thing too. I couldn't buy my exact seat. I had to only buy a category, which is really annoying. I have to drink water. Okay, thank you. I had to buy only like in a category. So they kind of picked the seat for you. So I didn't even know what seat I had till like right before they sent me the ticket, which I tried to go change the day before because I had like a ticket information area. But everybody in town was like, "Oh my gosh, you're going to the game!" Like, and they're like, "You're from Hawaii." They're like, "Who are you cheering for?" I was like, "I don't know, maybe Croatia." But like, everybody was just like, it was the hottest ticket in town. It was crazy. Of course, you know that's what I do. I always get the hottest tickets in town, always, always, always. And this was just adding to that, and that was really cool. But yeah, it was a great game, a great way to start. You start hearing the cheers from both the teams. They played this song called Que Viva España, and all the Spanish, there's their Spanish fan song. That's what they put up there. And they sang it a lot, especially after they scored goals. The final score of that game was 5-3. I don't know if you folks remember, or it was a really epic game. But it started off with the own goal, and I remember watching it, and I called it too, and I was like, man, I think the sun was like so oddly in the face of just that one, the Spanish goaltender. And he let the ball get by him, and it looked like Croatia. And Croatia fans were going crazy, and their confidence just boosted even more. And then Spain, you know, scored those two more goals. And this is a Spanish team that, like I said, was, you know, underachieving in a lot of ways, or people thought. And they definitely came to play. And the Spanish fans got louder and louder, and the ones around me as well. And then at the second half, amazingness. I was going to play for you the video. I'm going to put it on there. You'll see it. If you go to HI Sports Fans on Twitter, Instagram, go to Instagram. It's probably it's the last video that's on there, but it's a video of Croatia tying the game in extra minutes. So it went from 3-1 to 3-3 in extra minutes, and it was really amazing. I mean, just to see how fast these guys could score. You know, that's the thing about soccer, right? It's like, when you are not a seasoned fan and you're just watching from the outside, you think like, oh, this is kind of boring, right? Like the score is so low, but there's definitely more tension in soccer, I think, than in most sports. Like, it's just like a tension of like, God, because they hardly score, you're just like, is this going to happen? Is my team going to come back? Like 2 goals is like almost insurmountable. So to be able to see Croatia score so late in the game twice, not only once but twice, even in stoppage time, that was incredible. And to see that at the Euro Cup in the round of 16, a knockout stage where a team had to win. It wasn't like pool play where the teams would have another chance. These teams had to win. It was a knockout round. So to be there at the knockout, to see that happen was really cool. And I think that the stakes being that high also you know, made that moment, if you go and look at that video, just even that much more amazing, because everybody was celebrating it. It was just incredible. I mean, for any fan, and that's like this. Those were the moments that I personally remember from my life. Excuse me. It's not necessarily the moments that are involving teams that I am invested in, you know, like my own team. Sometimes they're just about the moments, the sports moments. Sometimes it's just about, you know, when you know, like when I think about the Philly, like I said, the Eagles. I always use the Eagles because it's like, obviously the Eagles are not my favorite NFL team at all, like any close. But being at their Super Bowl was so crazy because there's so many good moments, and definitely in Philadelphia Eagles history, that'll be the best. That's the greatest game in their history, no doubt. Super Bowl 52, and you know, they built a stadium. They built a shrine to Nick Foles, a guy who's still a backup quarterback, but you know, he had a shining moment, and you know, it's an amazing story. So like I said, like I can go back to those types of moments, and this is one of those moments as well. It's like Euro Cup 2016. Being in there in Copenhagen, Denmark, in the stadium, seeing Croatia tie the game, in stoppage. That was a cool moment to be a part of. And those are the type of moments that I like to bring to, Hawaii sports fans. And that's why now that we're past July 1st, we're in the second half of the year, and we're definitely getting closer to our first trip of the season. And that's why I wanted to remind you, hisportsfans.com, Hawaii Sports Fans. Just search Hawaii Sports Fans on Google. I guarantee it will come up first because I tried it myself. So, actually, Google does. You're right. Google, you could get personalized results. I'm hoping Hawaii Sports Fans comes up for everybody. So, HI Sports Fans or highsportsfans.com. And check out our UCLA tour. It's going to be a great tour. We have a few spots remaining. There's also a commercial going on right now, ESPN 1420. If you're at home in Hawaii, you'll hear on the ESPN affiliate radio station. So shout out to 1420. But you hear the I Love LA tour. So I think that's a cool branding they helped me with as well, because those are great partners. And I think it is. I think it shows real love for LA. If you go to a Dodgers game, at the end of a Dodgers win, they play the song, I Love LA. And they go, we love it. You know, that song, I Love LA. And, it's true, though. And I think teams like the Dodgers are definitely a part of that reason that so many people love LA, because it's a great tradition. So we're going to be going to Dodgers game, sitting in the best seats, the home run seats, eating all-you-can-eat Dodger dogs. So that's just one part of that. We'll also have a suite at Angel Stadium. Check it out. It's going to be one of the best tours I've ever put together. hisportsfans.com. Or listen for the I Love LA tour on 1420 AM. But back to the Euro Cup. 3-3 going into overtime. And then, what do you know? Spain scores. And they're scoring off of really cool set pieces, too. And, corner kicks and stuff. And it's cool to see the skill at that level. And that's another thing that I can appreciate, definitely. Even as somebody who is starting to watch a lot more. I mean, watching 3 seasons at least of MLS. So at least getting to understand the flow of the game more. And seeing some great skill at the MLS level as well. I think people really rate Major League Soccer so much. Obviously, I'm very biased there as a fan of LAFC, but the quality is great, and it's going to get better as teams start to attract some of these bigger European names. Like Luka. Maybe he'll come over to the U.S. to play. Maybe not. I don't know. But that's an example. And as they start to brand themselves, like on ESPN, I think the ESPN is definitely doing a good job of centering the Euro Cup in a way that to attract more fans. I don't know if the UEFA is paying them off pretty well to do that, but when they lead Sports Center or when they do breaking news of all these things that happen during Euro Cup, I mean, it's showing at least with, and I'm only centering ESPN because it's clearly the most popular cable sports or even any sports network that we have in America, and at least in the United States of America. But that's kind of the pulse of where the sporting community is. And I think the Euro Cup has now been really centered when it comes every 4 years. But Spain beating Croatia 5-3 was a big deal. A lot of people commented on my photo. A lot of people that don't watch traditional American sports. And that's another thing that's really cool too, is a lot of people don't watch traditional American sports, but are Americans or American sports fans, or they watch, soccer and they're not as loud about or vocal about their support. And some people are only supporters of their soccer team. I have a friend who's an actor in Los Angeles with me, and he has his favorite team, and in the Premier League, and he doesn't watch NFL or anything. He grew up in San Diego, and so that's the kind of profile. And I don't think he played soccer. He might have growing up, but there's something about a lot of these leagues that attract fans that some of the traditional American leagues don't attract. But definitely going to international sporting events. It's not my first international sporting event. It's my first European soccer event. I've been to all 4 tennis majors. 3 of them obviously are not in the U.S. When I went to Wimbledon in 2016 as well. I went to the French Open in 2014. I went to Australian Open in 2017. And all of those are very high-profile events on that same level of the Euro Cup for sure. and our Euro Cup is definitely on that same level in terms of how globally they attract so many people. But with the U.S. and the addition of U.S. Sports fans, the game is only going to grow even more. It's only going to be, even more paid attention to in the U.S. And that's something that's cool. So who knows what it'll look like in the 2024 Euro Cup. But I was talking about this earlier, like I got to watch Wales play in Wales on TV, in a pub. I was in a pub in Cardiff, Wales, after I spent a day at Stonehenge, which was pretty crazy because I had to drive there on the left side of the road. And I was also driving a stick shift, and I was sitting on the other side of it was really crazy. Anyways, that was a cool experience. And Denmark was also playing, in this Euro Cup as well. Today they lost to England. So congrats to all the England fans. We have a lot of England fans that are Hawaii sports fans as well. So congrats to their team. And shout out to all our friends, Carrie, Catherine, my friends that are living in London as well, who are big England fans, and Hawaii sports fans. Fans of UH football, huge fans of UH football, both of them, and living in England. And it's cool for them to be a part of that. I mean, they're so into it. This is the cool thing too, is like people in Europe are like so into it. And I was telling people, like, being in Denmark, when Denmark is playing in the Euro Cup, it's like, of course, I know, everyone knows, because everyone is talking about it. Everybody's vibing over it. Like, if the U.S. was playing in the World Cup, people would probably know for the most part, I would think, in the U.S., maybe, in major cities, at least in the major cities. But it wouldn't be buzzing like it does when their countries are playing. And what I mean by buzzing, I mean like lines coming out of bars. So that was what I saw in Copenhagen. And, all the hotel lobby bars, everywhere was just crowded with people watching the game. And that was really cool. And Denmark they won 4-0 over Wales, ironically, or coincidentally, I should say. So that was cool for me to witness and see like how people, fell into streets. Also, they just totally wrecked, I would say wrecked, in not a bad way. I'm saying like they partied very hard and left a lot of traces behind, put it that way, in their town square after the game. And in the morning, every shard, every piece of litter totally picked up. Like these Scandinavian countries, man, they don't mess around in their public spaces. They're super clean. And that was cool to witness as well. But Spain beat Croatia in that game 5-3. The Spaniard fans were very, very happy after the game. So they were definitely louder than Croatia, but it wasn't like hateful at all. And that was a kind of cool part of the culture. I'm sure there are people of course there are people that take it to the next level, but drinking, which I think contributes to a lot of the problems with American sports, definitely in the stands. I rarely hear anybody who has done anything but been drunk is the reason that they get into fights in the stands. There are people that don't need to be drunk to get into fights, but let's face it, a lot of it stems from that, people over drinking. And I think that also, personally, I think that stems a lot from the American culture with alcohol. Whereas in Europe, alcohol, especially wine, is naturally worked into a child's, and I'm saying child because a lot of families in Europe give their children wine, and because it's, just culturally a part of how it is, or at least as teenagers. I'm not saying they're giving their 4-year-olds wine or something. So it might be, I don't know. But I'm saying like they don't in America, when people wait till they're 21 and they get crazy, and there's a lot of people there who can't handle their alcohol. That's my long-winded way of saying that. But in Europe, you could buy 6 Heinekens at one time, 6 pints. And they give you a thing. I mean, you can't do that in the U.S. You can keep going back. But that's how much they trust the people there, where they're like, okay, you can just buy 6. Like, even if you drank these all yourself, which I don't know if people did it. They might be. For the most part, I saw people, buying for all of their friends, which makes it a lot easier. And I think they know that they're going to distribute them to their friends, so they trust them. But that's something that's different, right? Like, you can't buy a bunch of beer at a game in America, but also Americans can't handle it. I will say this unequivocally, I guess, that the U.S. probably a lot of people have a harder time controlling their alcohol than what I've seen in Europe, at least, and in Asia. And they drink a lot in Asia. it's hard to drink a Korean under the table. I mean, that's like when I went to a Korean baseball game, like everybody was drinking, like old people drink, and you don't see fights there, you know? Like, so I'm saying, like, culturally, it's like how we approach the game. I think what I didn't like about the game, obviously, I saw people throwing things in the field. Like I said, the journalist next to me got hit by a water bottle, which was crazy to see that. I was like, whoa, that's like insane. Like that shouldn't be happening. I mean, that's, for anything, that's stupid anyway. Somebody who's nearly at the top trying to throw it all the way to the field. He's not going to make it to the field. So I don't know why that person was trying to do that, but there were a lot of people that were really close to the field that were throwing things, and that's just uncalled for. I mean, if that's a part of the football culture, I mean, that's something that they definitely need to address, because, you know, athletes are not there to get stuff thrown at them, ever. Definitely not in the NBA. But in soccer as well, I mean, people are throwing, like, projectiles, too. It's like water bottles, basically still filled completely with water. That's like a pound, you know, it's like, it's a hard object, so it could hurt somebody. But, you know, that there's a lot of it happening, which is unfortunate. But like I said, there are a lot of things that are a lot different than the American way of entertaining as well, in terms of putting on a game. And it's interesting to see how all these elements will blend, because when I look at videos from like Argentina, soccer or something, or like Central America, they have all these crazy pyros and all these crazy like laser light shows and holograms, and I'm like, man, I want that stuff to come to the US. That's cool. They didn't have this in Copenhagen, but that's also because it didn't get dark till 10 o'clock, which was also crazy. But they were also happy because that was the best weather they had in Denmark, and I was there at a good time. But that was a part of my experience, all kind of in a nutshell. I'm gonna have a vlog up there soon. Up there, meaning on Hawaii Sports Fans social media channels. So check it out, youtube.com. Make sure you're subscribed. Please subscribe. If you want to sponsor the show, if you're out there and you're interested in sponsorships, let me know as well. Or send us an email, send me a private message at HI Sports Fans on Instagram, at HI Sports Fans on Twitter. Because I want to continue to build a community as well of people that also want to do these things and go on these major adventures, because I want this to be a thing that I do every 4 years, right? Just like I want to go to the Super Bowl or go to the Super Bowl every year, I want to be able to go to Euro Cup every 4 years. Go to the World Cup, you know? And mahalo, Bradley. And, you know, I think that a lot of people are like-minded, but they might be a little bit, you know, reticent to go because of the, you know, things that could go wrong, some people. And you can never think that way, right? There's always a fear. And that's something I wanted to address because, you know, for me, even personally going to Europe and being there for 12 days, I'm not really super fearful, but I know that there are risks. And I think that when you go with groups, or even when you don't, anything can happen. And it's not like the fear of somebody else doing something to you. I mean, you could get hurt. Or my aunt had a heart attack in South Korea, which was really scary for all of us, you know. And it's scary for her, I know, being in a different country and not knowing, you know, how they're going to pay for it, which is a sad part of any time going on, having any kind of medical emergency. But I think it's worth it every time. And I come back and I'm like, wow, it's just kind of a dream almost to go to these things. And it really was in a lot of ways. And now watching the tournament back on TV again, back in the US, watching it on ESPN, I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. Like I was there, like that theme song they play it in the stadium as well. And it's like the prolonged version. So it's not just like the bumper 10-second Euro Cup version, but it's the actual official long song. So it's kind of cool. It's like I talked about being at a pay-per-view event. You have that feeling of you're at something like a premium kind of a thing. And that Euro Cup definitely had that feeling. There was definitely that buzz in Copenhagen. And it's just a fun city. Like I said, I got to be there. I got to go to Malmo, Sweden. Got to go to Hamburg, Germany. Got to go to Amsterdam, which was amazing. I went to the Anne Frank house. And Frank, as you know, she left a diary of hiding from Nazis in Amsterdam with her father in his shop, and they had some helpers, but they were caught even after Americans were about to or helped to liberate. This is going to be the most credit. That's good war for America, but they didn't get there in time, unfortunately, for Anne, and she was sent to a concentration camp. Her whole family was, and only the dad survived. And I only bring that up because it's a sad moment in history and tragic, but it's also a part of the travel experience, I think, personally. I also went to the Van Gogh Museum, and some of you in Hawaii are experiencing the Van Gogh experience right now. But Van Gogh I've been a fan of for a long time, definitely since high school and through college and learning about him. And then I went to a Van Gogh exhibit, a really fun one, at the Denver Art Museum. And if you're on my Denver tour, I offered that to people. Nobody came with me. But it was also the morning of the Sunday game. So I went like that morning before the Broncos game. Was that Sunday or Monday? Yeah, I think it was Sunday. So that was fun. Like I'm saying, like that's all connected to like traveling and going to sports. You never think, but going to these museums. And Van Gogh, great story. Something personally that I resonate with a lot, his life, and his crazy. But also his art and how he's shared it with the world. And I want to share like my culture from being from Hawaii and the things that I love and my passion for languages, and all those things are wrapped into what I'm doing at Hawaii Sports Fans as well, and what we're doing on our tours. And that's another reason why I think our tours are different, because I personally guide all of them, for one thing, but I bring a lot of that experience. I bring all these storytelling, and I also bring a level of confidence in terms of getting into the game safely, doing it efficiently, and making the experience as pain-free for you as possible. So ultimately, that's what I want to make happen, and I have for almost 10 years, over 10. I'm in my 10th season of offering tours, 10th year, which is crazy. And it's been great. Every single tour, over 20 tours. And aloha, Robert. He's commenting. Robert's the ultimate sports fan. He's been about 5 or 6 Hawaii sports fans tours, and I'm just so grateful for people like him who have come back every time, because they have made, they've really validated our mission in a lot of ways at Hawaii Sports Fans, to really bring a new level of experience. And I think for Robert and for Lori, who comes with them, shout out to Lori. I think I helped them to create an experience that they may not be able to do on their own, and I think he'll admit that he hasn't as well. And I think that is one of those things that I'm proud of as well. And that's why people come back. So hopefully you're one of those people that will be a first-time client, or come back with me to many tours, to the Super Bowl. I know I have a lot of people reaching out. They're going to SoFi, so save up for that game, SoFi Stadium. Reach out to me if you want to be there. I know I can help you get in that stadium, guaranteed. And do it in a way that is best for you. Without having to pay, because you can just pay the exorbitant money right now and get into the game, but I'll help you pay, it's still be exorbitant, but a lot better in a way, and still a lot better, put it that way. I can still do it cheaper, and I can still do it in a way that'll be a memorable experience for you, getting into the game, getting out of the game, celebrating before and after. And that's a part of the experience. That's a part of the whole experience. And that's everything about my tours, is the experience from beginning to end. The game itself is a major part of it, but only a small part of the experience, right? Because you have before and after, and the days before, the days after. And I always want to find really creative things to do, and we have, and go to eat at really great restaurants, and we do. And I always love to eat local. It's my favorite thing. I always eat things from the places. So after the Croatia-Spain game in Denmark, in Copenhagen, I walked back to the main area by the amusement park, Tivoli, where I was staying as well. So go look at that place, Tivoli, Tivoli. That place is so fun. It's amazing. If you like theme parks, that place is magical. And they inspired Disneyland. So, I mean, I think that what Disney did was really cool, but Tivoli is clearly where he got a lot of inspiration from. No doubt that's where he got most of the magic in Disneyland. He got from this place in Denmark. But the Danes have a really great lifestyle and a really great culture, which is fun. And they also have this food called flesk, which I got after the game, and it's like deep fried pork. It's like deep fried bacon. It was like it was good. It was delicious, and I had some potatoes and beets on the side, and it was good. Some Danish beer. It was delicious, but that's a part of that whole experience. And I love to eat local. I love to eat a memorable thing that will remind us of the game or the day or the area. So you know, we've done that in all the cities that we go to across the U.S. and we're gonna do that again in LA. We're gonna eat some good food. So I hope you all can join me on that tour. And you know, I hope that I inspire some of you to go on your own adventures, and whether you just are at home or on your island or in your small town or wherever you in the whole wide world, you know, all the people I've met across, you know, Europe and going to Belgium and to the Netherlands and Germany, Sweden, Denmark. I met so many people just like us, just like me and you, just like normal humans. I just want to have fun and go on great adventures. And that's the cool thing. That's what binds all of us together. And that's what's important ultimately. But I am so jet lagged. I am making it through the day though. I'm grateful for all of you. And I'm excited for the next adventures. And I hope you can join me. So check us out, hisportsfans.com. I'm going to get unjet lagged pretty soon, hopefully. But talk to you guys later. Aloha.